Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Greetings in Te Reo Māori. My name is Murray Heasley, and I'm a spokesperson for the Network of Survivors of Abuse and Faith-Based Institutions and their supporters, which is based in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but has important links all through the Pacific and a particular interest and focus in the Philippines.
My name is Father Jim Connell. I am a priest of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee in the United States. And for a number of years, since 2009, I guess, I've been involved publicly as an advocate, supporter of the victim survivors of clergy sexual abuse. My training is in canon law. I am a canon lawyer in the Catholic Church. And I have been through over the years trying in different ways to let that become part of the focus of what I do and how I'm involved with all of this. But I'll also stand on the street corner once in a while with people from SNAP or wherever.
But my name is Tom Doyle, and I used to be an active priest. I'm not anymore. And I left because I just lost complete faith in the system. That's one thing. But once I got outside of the system and looking at young kids being violated by priests and members of the system, that changed my life.
Our network started in 2008, kind of its nascent, its beginnings, but in 2017 it was turbocharged with the revelations of abuse of perhaps New Zealand's most prolific and alarming pedophile and epipophile, a man called Father Max Murray. And our involvement as a network and connecting with the media really got our network firing, and lots of survivors came to us. And so we represent a very broad range of multicultural survivors, including Pākehā, European-based survivors in New Zealand, but also Māori, Pacifica, Tongan, Samoan, Cook Islanders, etc., etc. So, and all a multiplicity of ethnic identities and genders. But we have in all of our activities attempted to be inclusive, non-exclusionary, and with a focus on the notion that we're stronger together.
They've all been saying that all along. There's too many cultures, and that the CDF, with their approach, can't deal with all the different cultures at the same time, which is, I think, an approach that's completely irrelevant to the issue itself. I mean, you're talking about violating people sexually in ways that are criminal.
We need to change the law, because the law, as it's stated now, does not provide the zero tolerance that people sometimes claim it does. So therefore, we need to change the law so that there is law in the church that clearly articulates what zero tolerance is and how it plays out and how we need to be protecting zero tolerance and stopping the abuse. I understand that the laws in the various countries can differ one from another, and some countries might have no law that is comparable to a law that exists in some other country. The law that's being proposed for the church, occupational, that does apply, and that could apply to the church around the world. Things can change. We don't have to live with what we've had in the past, and that can change everywhere. Every country can stand up and be tall and say, we're going to protect the kids, and we are not going to allow this to continue. There will be zero tolerance. We're not going to tolerate the abuse of children.
So we have a collective identity, and we avoid siloing. We avoid notions of them versus us, and we reject reductionist thinking. We try to collapse divisions created by notions of racial identity, cultural artifacts, because culture is man-made. It's not a biological fact. And I have had a particular role to play because my background is I have a PhD in history. I consider myself to be a historian, anthropologist, writer, and I'm multilingual in Pacific languages. So I'm able to mediate between different groups and to draw out the commonalities. And the commonalities are whatever your ethnicity, whatever your gender, you were a child who was sexually abused by an institution that has created massive societal issues in New Zealand and reverberates through a multiplicity of generations.
Only the Pope can change that law. And this is not a democracy. There's no parliament involved, no Congress, and so forth. So it's what the Pope says and what he can do.
He has no equals and no chance for anything other than what he's got. He's got absolute power over 1.6 billion people in the world. Now, how many of them pay attention to him is another issue, but he does. So the fact is that, yeah, he's got power. They all got power. They have power. But it's a question of using it and doing something with it. To have an outfit as big as the Roman Catholic Church with 450,000 priests. God knows how many of them was perpetrators of some sort. And to say there's got to be a way to allow them to continue. That's crazy. When they commit these crimes, that it has to be looked upon differently than ordinary people.
It's a church law then. It has to be enforced in the church. And there has to be ways for the society to see whether or not the reported allegations actually get investigated and what those investigations reveal, and then what the church then does about the crimes that are committed. And all that has to be transparent. All that has to be out in the open for people to see. And for all the people to see, not just the victim, survivor, and family and friends, but the people in society in general. They need to see this. This is a matter of integrity, that the church be open with all of this, which has not been going on at this point at all. So
This notion of vos estis lux mundi has proven to be it's not just a failure of policy and its interpretation or its actioning. The whole notion of vos estis lux mundi is patently absurd, because rather than light, all we are encountering from this institution is darkness. Our group attempts to bring light into this darkness, and we're constantly rebuffed because we're not dealing with honest brokers. We're dealing with bad faith actors who have constantly demonized us and the victim survivors, and attempted to bury truth. In the first instance, New Zealand's perhaps most prolific and dangerous pedophile and epibophile, a man called Father Max Murray. We exposed him for his activities, and we dragged the institution into dealing with this, kicking and screaming onto the stage. And constantly through all of this, the major proponents of the darkness were bishops. So the princes of the church were the major architects of the destruction of light. In Max Murray's case, there were 8 bishops and a cardinal who, over a period of 30 years, moved this man from place to place. With hundreds of victims as a result. And all of these men knew he was a dangerous person. This is a type that you find universally in every country. And invariably, the architects of this horror are the bishops who have failed to act to stop dangerous predators and the destruction and torpedoing of childhoods. So how can there be a vos estis lux mundi when the people who are charged with bringing the light are the source of the problem?
It didn't happen by accident. It didn't happen by mistake. It happened, period. This is not a game. These kids are the number one people in this deal here. Not us, not the adults.
right now, the law hinges on violations of the Sixth Commandment. And there are other forms of abuse that need to be included. If we want to eliminate the wording of the sixth commandment, that in and of itself is not a problem. To move from the idea of sin to the reality of breaking law, of committing crime, definitely is a step in the right direction. But then the crime has to be punished. There has to be an accountability for what goes on with the crime. There have been many, many things that have happened in the church that were presented as though they're making progress in this regard, and yet they weren't. They have not. So we need to keep at that. I wish I could have a stronger sense of hope within the church community, but I don't. The absence of the clergy and the religious from really being vocal, speaking up about this. Where are they at? Where's their heart? You don't squeal on me, I don't squeal on you. It's about protecting the criminal who confesses something. I'm not going to call the police. You don't call the police on me. And that's been in our tradition, our history. Our church is not one that's full of integrity when it comes to fixing moral issues. It just isn't. And that's very tragic. That is very, very tragic. So this is a step. I would hope that all of you who are working so hard in making this happen, if it doesn't happen right away, please don't get discouraged. Keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. The Vatican officials who are participating or listening to this in any way, I don't know who you are individually. I know nothing of your background, but from my years studying in Rome, some access to the idea of what the Vatican was about and what I've learned since then, an enormous amount of change has to go on in the Vatican. We hear of scandal from time to time. McCarrick, as an example, Cardinal McCarrick would certainly be a primary example. Where did all that money go? What did he do? There's just questions galore. It just has to stop. And those who are in the Vatican, if you're upwardly mobile, if you're working in the Vatican now as a way of getting to a better position or one you want where you'd be more proud of yourself because of what you're asked to do, stop it. You're working for Jesus Christ. We're working for Almighty God. We should be pursuing the things that Jesus taught, not individual careers. Let the careers go by the wayside. Whatever happens, happens. Get out of the way if you're an obstacle and get on the side of trying to do justice, integrity, truth. Those things must prevail. And they appear not to prevail with any great substance at this time.
Thank you. Peter?
That ought to get me fried.
There is no indication from the bishops' conference in this country, any of the bishops, that they have any interest whatsoever in supporting the notion of zero tolerance. We're dealing with an order of magnitude of attacks on children that are far greater than normative secular society. If this institution does not come to terms with the trust issue that is the collapse of trust in this institution, I can't see any future. So it's ironic that zero tolerance is the only way this institution is going to survive. What's important within the Catholic Church itself is that the canon law is actually something with teeth, and it's not enough to bring to account the person who has committed the abuse. One has to also bring to account and defrock or remove any bishop that has been a party accessory after the fact. So why the zero tolerance law that has been crafted and ECA's presenting is so critically important is because there is a focus on those men. Not just the perpetrator, but the enabler of the perpetration. The thing about ECA is that as an organization, we have a universality of approach where those artificial divisions and those attempts to divide through language or through culture or through gender or whatever are collapsed. And we work as a universal group because we as a group from multi-nations see those same universal themes coming through, which is destruction of children's lives, by enabled, entitled, and empowered individuals, whether they be bishops or priests or nuns or religious brothers or whatever iteration they may be. Because we see it happening in every country, in every culture, in every language, and because we know that, for example, when John Paul II said this is an American problem, and we discover it's not an American problem, we see that it is a universal problem all through the world. So from the Māori aphorism that I was talking about earlier, ko te hitu ka hau o te te ngira ke ku mai, the needle has only one eye through which pass multiple threads. We are the multiple threads joined together as one group. So I've spoken to you in English to involve you all in this conversation. But I'd like to end in Te Reo Māori, if I may, with the haka or life breath of my ancestors. I performed this challenge, this haka, on numerous occasions in Rome. This haka talks about, about a triumph over impossible odds, and the courage with the help of others, especially with the help of others. You can't act individually. You need the help of others, like Eka. To overcome impossible odds and to step out of darkness and into the light, because this is a cultural treasure that I'm able to speak or to perform, because it was composed by my ancestor, Te Rauparaha, when he survived a near-death experience, and he was helped from almost certain death by the help of other people, and he is helped out of a pit where he hid, a kumara pit or a sweet potato pit, by another man. So he comes out of the darkness into the light, and that is what I would hope Eka would do and is doing, to move from the darkness into the light and to bring light into this world, and to make this institute, this hugely powerful institution, answerable and accept that they need to share the light that we bring, not to extinguish it, but to support it. I die, I live, I live. Here comes the man who helps me and lifts me towards the light. One step up, another step up. The sun shines. Kamate, kamate, kaura, kaura. Kamate, kamate, kaura, kaura. Tēnei tangata pohuruhuru, nana I tiki mai whakawhiti tērā. A upane, ka upane, upane, ka upane, whiti tērā. The sun shines.